pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the Planning and Zoning Board and also local planning agency. It's an advisory board which makes recommendations to the county commissioners who will make the final decisions on all these items. Items H2 and H7 have been withdrawn. Items H4 and H6 are LPA items. It's on today's agenda. Items on today's agenda will be heard by the County Commission on December 1st. When a motion ends in any kind of a split vote, a roll call vote may be taken to ensure accuracy. As a reminder, each member who makes a motion or a second needs to turn their microphone on so that your voice is on the record. Speakers for the public comment on agenda items will be given 5 minutes. At this time, if any board member has had any ex parte communication regarding any application, please disclose so now. Okay, I need a motion for the approval of P&Z minutes for October 17th, 2022.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
I got a motion by Bruce, a second by Liz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously. Okay, item H1.
Yes, item H1, Dwayne White requests change of zoning classification from AU and RU-1-9 to SR. It's tax count number 2000374 and located in District 1.
Okay, is the applicant here? Ma'am, if you could come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Brook Kershner, and my property address right now is 3630 Lionel Road, Mims, Florida, 32754.
And a little bit of what you're looking to do.
I just gave my address that I'm at right now. Do you want this one for the record? The one that we're going to be building on?
Yes, you can hand that to that. And just a little summary of what you're looking to do.
Okay, Dwayne White is building a house for us on this property, so we just, I guess, need it to be rezoned in order to build on this property.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak for or against this item? Seeing that, I bring it back to the board. Anyone have any questions for her?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I believe this new zoning is consistent, compatible, and I move that we recommend approval of the zoning change.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ron, a second by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, have a good day.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeff, do you want to speak on item H2, or are we just going to skip and go to 3?
No, let me read it into the record because you have to make a motion since it was advertised.
Okay.
So item H2 is Edita Realty requests a change of zoning classification from BU1 to RU2-10, tax accounts 2302548 and 2302549 located in District 1.
Okay, see, hearing that, does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Seeing that, we bring it back to the board for a motion to withdraw.
Motion to withdraw?
Second.
Got a motion by Liz, a second by Henry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. You want to go ahead and do 7 too while we're at it, or?
Yeah, we can do 7. So item H7 is ordinance amending Chapter 62, Article 6, Division 2, Section 62, 1157, submission of a binding development plan in support of request of a change of zoning or conditional use permit. So this item is also being withdrawn.
Hearing that, does anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? I'm bringing it back to the board for a motion to withdraw.
I have a question. Just wanted, why are you withdrawing it? I had a lot of notes on this one.
Because of, it was scheduled to be heard at the BCAC meeting before it came to LPA, so since that meeting didn't take place, it has to be rescheduled.
All right, fine.
Motion to withdraw?
Second.
Got a motion by Liz, a second by Ben. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously. Okay, item H3.
Item H3 is Protea Senior Living Melbourne LLC requests a change of zoning classification from RU1-9, RU1-13, and INH with an existing BDP to INL with removal of existing BDP and adding a new BDP. Application 22Z00047, tax accounts are 2606013, 2606015, 2606018, and 2606020, located in District 4.
Is the applicant here? Sir, if you could come to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I just want to make a statement before the applicant comes up and says anything that, for the record, they were a client of mine in the past, or they are no longer. I did some work on this project in a very conceptual capacity. So I just want to know that there's nothing in this for me, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Name and address.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg Spiro. My address is 5458 Avenida Fiesta, La Jolla, California, 92037.
And a little bit about what you're wanting to do here, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you. We are senior living developers. We own multiple properties in California and in Florida. Our intention today is to develop a senior community on the property. And I have a little presentation here, if I could put this up for you guys. Thank you. Is somebody working that? Okay, good. As you know, the property is located at 5925 Old Dixie Highway. It borders on US 1. That is the aerial concept, just showing how it's located, where it's located, and particularly how it's located in relation to the residential neighborhood behind us. Just a couple of renderings that we did. What this doesn't show is there will be a number of trees there. It's hard to put them up in that rendering because otherwise it'll just block the view of the facility, but you can sort of see them on the bottom right-hand side. Other pictures there, and then the top. So the property is a comprehensive senior living campus. It includes 72 IL beds, 79 assisted living beds, and 24 memory care units. We have a number of indoor and outdoor amenities. The outdoor amenities will include things like pickleball courts, bocce ball, swimming pool, dog park, multiple courtyards, outdoor barbecue, dining and walking trails. And the indoor amenities will include a dining room, sports bar, fitness center, salon and spa, theater, games room, and multiple activity rooms. The building is well located, close to the upmarket Suntree neighborhood with magnificent views of the Indian River. It also has great access to I-95, Vieira, and the beach, and our intention is to make it the premier senior facility within Brevard County. As part of our site plan development application, we will provide a comprehensive and thoughtful landscape plan that would provide for a natural lush barrier between the facility and the residential neighborhoods, something along the lines of the conceptual plan, which I will show after this little flyover that we did for you that may give you a better idea what we're looking to do. Oh, nope, that's the development, that's the landscape plan. Let's see if I can get this up. Well, unfortunately, we had a flyover rendering that would give you a very good idea of, that's it over there. Oh, there you go. On August the 31st, we held a neighborhood meeting where we presented our concept to the neighbors and asked for comments. We had a number of comments, as you can imagine. The most significant of which was a concern over the traffic that would be generated by the facility and the impact that traffic would have on Old Dixie Highway, Otter Creek, and the intersection with US 1. On August the 5th, which was 3 weeks prior to that, we commissioned LTG, which is one of the most respected traffic engineers in the state, to perform a trip generation traffic statement for the site. The report showed that the expected traffic generated by the community would be less than 78 cars per peak hour, and therefore did not meet the county code requirement for conducting a trip impact analysis. Notwithstanding this report, since that meeting of August the 31st, we have spent a considerable time with LTG, with Allen Engineering, with members of the County Commission and FDOT in an attempt to come up with a plan that would improve accessibility and create a safer driving experience on all 3 roads. As a result, nothing concrete has come from the meeting. We're not in a position yet to be able to sit with them and to really drill down into these things. But what we are looking to do is to improve sight distances at the intersection of Otter Creek and US 1 to make it a safer and easier to access from the north, and also to potentially improve turning angles. We are also investigating the possibility of widening a portion of Old Dixie Highway from its current 20 feet to 24 feet, so that it conforms with county standards and allows for easier and safer travel. We are here before you to request a rezoning of the property, which I'm not sure somebody else is going to present, but the property is currently zoned, as they said, INH, and we need it to be zoned to INL. And we also need the 3 residential properties that come with it to be zoned in conformity with that new INL zoning. And that is why we're here before you. Thank you.
Okay, hold on one second, sir. I think we have some public comment, but is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Okay, hold on here one second.
Mark, can I ask Bruce a question?
Yes, sir.
Bruce?
Yes, sir.
The binding development plan, didn't we deal with this thing years ago?
Yes, more than once.
Yeah.
Please, in the audience, if you could hold on until we get a chance to talk.
Yeah, I think this thing gave me nightmares.
Yeah, it was, if I remember right, it was a treatment facility, like a drug rehab, if I remember correctly.
For single men coming.
Did that ever materialize?
It's, as far as I know, it's been vacant for a while. I don't know if it was,
that?
I think it was that for a short period of time, if I remember correctly.
The building's in fact being demolished.
Yeah, and then I think they were going to expand it, and that's when we heard about it.
Okay. I just trying to get up to date. What I remembered was
Yeah,
exciting.
it was a lot of conversation.
It was-
This room had a lot more people in it, too. if I remember correctly.
And we have
I'm
some
much
others.
older than I was, and unfortunately, this has come back
I,
to me.
I thought I saw a reserved space in that video for you, Henry, if I saw that correctly.
We have in fact submitted a new binding development plan as part of this package as well.
I believe we approved it, and then they came back and asked for more units, and then the planning and zoning board denied it then. That was probably about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
All right. Sir, if you could just step down there just for a minute. And those of you that do want to speak, I'm going to be giving you 5 minutes. And as soon as you hear the alarm go off, please be respectful to the time because we got other people. Who wants to go first? And when you do come up, sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is Tim Montgomery, and I live at 2695 Pinecone Drive, Melbourne, Florida. I'm just getting my feet wet on this a little bit, but I had more questions than I did anything else, I think. The other day, a concrete truck was in our neighborhood. I wonder how he got over the little bridge that's down by the wildlife sanctuary. And it was one truck, and we get other trucks in there too. But I was a little concerned is the county might be concerned also, and even the developer, if that little culvert is going to be able to take that type of traffic when they start the construction with the concrete trucks coming in there. I'm thinking it's a 5-ton limit, and when you're talking about a 30-ton truck coming in there, somebody might be concerned about looking and evaluating that culvert to make sure it can hold that.
Okay.
Then on, I've gotten in the mail a little drawing of their perception, and the only thing I was really concerned on that drawing was that there was 3 exits, and to me it looked like it was on the Old Dixie Highway. And I wasn't really sure where that 3rd exit was, but with that many exits, I would imagine that the concept would be for the trucks to come in the 1st exit, go to the facility, unload, and then come out that 3rd exit and out. I mean, it makes common sense that, that's what they want to do. If they did that, then that would put a really big, heavy traffic load on Old Dixie Highway right there where we have some families. And then the other concern I had was I was wondering about how many employees they were going to have, because that's going to add to traffic too. And when you're bringing in older people like me into my neighborhood who are trying to get out on US 1, it is a nightmare. I mean, since I've been there been 2 people killed that I know of, and I can't imagine people my age, a bunch of us, trying to get out on US 1 the way it is now without a traffic light or something. So I'm really concerned about that. And I think you might be readdressing that if it isn't addressed up front, because I think there's going to be problems with that. So,
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, sir. Okay, who else would like to speak?
So I'm supposed to press a button here?
No?
No, I'm good? All right.
Yeah, your name and address,
My
please,
name-
for the record.
My name is Michael P. Schweitzer. Our address is 5840 Old Dixie Highway. We are at the corner, the end of Old Dixie Highway. And my concern, our concern, kind of reiterates what Tim was talking about. The access and egress from US 1 to Otter Creek is horrible. And that's just for a residential community of maybe a dozen houses. There's been numerous accidents, maybe not at that intersection, but because of the way that that is set up in very close proximity to that intersection. And if that is the only access to the property or to the facility, it's going to create a really difficult negative impact on the residents who already have a difficult time trying to get in and out of our neighborhood. Especially getting out is difficult, trying to get in is twice as difficult. So just looking at it from that standpoint, just the mere traffic volume, and we're talking just a normal time of the day. When you talk about 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or 8:30, 8 o'clock a.m. to 10 a.m., nobody obeys the speed limit there. There's nobody doing 50. And it's going to create a huge negative impact, not just for our community, but traffic altogether, because there's going to be accidents, there's going to be problems, and that's going to affect all people in the county that are trying to go north and south on US 1. The only other concern I have is the conceptual drawing that they have is beautiful, and it really is. I kudos for that, but the little demonstration, the little video that you saw, doesn't really give you an accurate picture of our neighborhood. There are no trees along that other side of the road. There's houses. There is one vacant property, but the rest of it are all residential homes. And there are still small children that live in that neighborhood, and I have 8 grandchildren that do visit. And to have that kind of increased traffic is a concern. With that, I think that'll do it for me.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Anybody else would like to speak for or against this item? Well, you need to present those over to him if they haven't been accepted into the file. Do we already have that, Jeff?
No.
You're going to read it into the record?
Sorry, yes.
I'm waiting for him to.
This is what I propose to read to you today.
Do you have enough copies for the board to
I have
to
4 more copies. No, that's not the same. No, that's different.
That's okay. We'll make copies for you. So
can,
as you speak, we can do that.
Okay, if you could state your name and address, ma'am, for the record.
Okay, my name is Shirley Leslie. I live at 2665 Hilltop Lane, Melbourne, 32940. And I believe the proposed facility is too large for our neighborhood. Traffic safety alone is a threat to the safety of the proposed facility and our neighborhood. The staff document seems to omit scheduled private transportation, on-site and visiting management personnel, housekeeping and linen services, visitors, probable daily ambulance and hearses, maintenance and delivery vehicles, etc., and only say that the combined ALF and commercial use could generate between 586 and 626 vehicles per day. They do say that combined, both projects meet the county's roadway capacity criterion and will require a TAI. However, LTG's memo states that the project does not meet the county code requirements threshold for conducting a TAI. So there's a conflict. As for rezoning, there's a low intensity, where a low intensity exists, the building scale and design must be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. Administrative Policy 3 says compatibility with existing and proposed land uses shall be a factor in determining where a rezoning or any application involving a specific proposed use is being considered. Policy 4 says the character of a neighborhood or area shall be a factor for consideration whenever a rezoning is reviewed. The character of the area must not be materially or adversely affected by the proposed rezoning or land use application. The criteria that shall be applied says the proposed use must not materially and adversely impact an established residential neighborhood by introducing types of intensity of traffic, including parking, trip generation, commercial activity, or industrial activities that is not already present within the identified boundaries of the neighborhood. Now, I assume the proposed BDP is the conditions of the proposed rezoning. Nothing in the proposed BDP provides for any restriction or requirements placed on the developer other than that which is provided in county code already. It is also incomplete. It lacks many requirements of county code. I request that the following modifications and additions be made to the proposed BDP. Modify paragraph 5 to read, "The developer owner shall utilize ingress and egress at Old Dixie Highway until such time as an alternate access can be determined and provided." I'd like to add, appropriate signs shall be posted at each egress of the property to prevent residents and their guests, support staff, delivery vehicles, service vehicles, emergency vehicles, and caregivers from turning left into the platted neighborhood. By the way, we don't have any other egress or exit except Old Dixie to Otter Creek to US 1. That's it. We can't get out or in. And I'd like to add, all wet retention ponds and wetlands shall be secured with fencing. I'd like to add athletic areas, pickleball, tennis, basketball courts, ambulance receiving areas, and air conditioning and heating units shall be located on the property's northernmost portion as to mitigate associated noises from those sources to preserve the quality of life in the existing neighborhood. And finally, I'd like to add, no dwellings, structures, parking lots, or buildings shall be constructed on the southernmost lot currently zoned RU1-9 so as to be compatible with the historical current residential neighborhood commercial properties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else would like to speak for or against this item?
Leslie, 2665 Hilltop Lane, Melbourne, Florida. To set the record straight, first of all, on the last go-around, they did not ever finish out. They didn't ask for any more people or anything. What kind of concerns me about the fact that nobody knows this is it's in the staff report. It's telling me you guys aren't reading the stuff that's being produced. There's pages of information on this. This is a very complicated zoning situation. The 3 lots that they were talking about earlier to the very south are still neighborhood commercial. In 2009, we went through mediation with the previous owners. It took a year of county mediator and everybody else to come up with a plan that we could all live with. And in that plan, we came up with 47 residents, capping out at 68 total with staff. Now we're looking at 173 plus all the staff. And that's going to push somewhere around 250 people total, probably 24/7. It's much, much larger than it was the last time around. The treatment and recovery facility, they never went anywhere with it because they found out, I think they found out that they were going to have to actually build the buildings that they were saying they were going to build, and they didn't want to spend the millions of dollars to do it. So they withdrew. I would like to say that this developer is what we've all been wanting for years. I have been coming to these meetings since you were public works director. It's been a long time. So we've been dealing with zoning issues with this property for a long time. And these guys are going to do a good job. They've got the money, the backing, and the professionalism to do it right. But it's really big. And if we could somehow find a way to step this development to where we can convince DOT to put in some stoplights or deal with this intersection before they go to full build out, it would be awesome. I mean, he's willing to pay for it, and that's a lot of money to put in a stoplight down there. He's gone to them, they've said no. But the bottom line is, this is a very dangerous intersection. Since grills got put in and we've got that U-turn to go into grills from the northbound people coming south, if you're trying to turn left onto our street from the south, you can't see where those people are waiting to turn around, so you have to wait till all the traffic gets by. So people start inching over closer and closer to that head-on traffic coming down the hill. We've got people doing that U-turn, other people coming north, coming off of Pineda Causeway, coming north on US 1, and they're about to hit just on an hourly basis over and over and over again. It's dangerous. And when you look at your responsibility under admin policies to look at traffic, it's important that you do so. Look at the traffic part of this thing, because that's what we're all concerned about, every one of us, not just the residents, the developer, and everybody. So I don't know how else to more emphatically state it. This is not simple because of that intersection. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Alexandra von Bobinski, 2886 Cape View Lane. And I'm sorry, I don't have a printout, but from your websites, you can see what they're doing and where, like, the houses are.
Well, the only issue with that is I'm the only one that can see that,
Yeah.
so.
Mr. Chair,
We have that.
Yeah, you have
We
it.
got it.
Yeah.
just so the audience understands, as part of the packet, we include an aerial photograph of the
Okay.
property.
So, this gentleman is phenomenal, and he is willing to do everything, and I appreciate you for that, 100%. The fact of the matter is it's a small community behind there, and we don't really know how that's going to affect all of us, especially the small children, how we've already stated, and all the other things. Basically, originally there was one entrance, and we talked about how we could change the entrances, and now there's 3 entrances, and they're all going to Old Dixie Highway. Now we have that new train that's coming through on the back side as well. So all of these matters kind of come to fruition of how this small community that it's always been like our knit, like it's just us in our kind of small kind of corner. So how do we like fix it to accommodate, which is nothing wrong, but how do we make it all cohesive and everybody's happy? And as everybody stated, and I'm not going to keep beating a dead horse, but like that whole issue of the in and out of the,
Right.
yeah, not good.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Anybody else would like to speak for or against this item? Okay, sir, if you could come back up to the podium. And hearing that, I bring it back to the board. We have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Robert, yes, sir.
Is it Greg? Yeah. Now, Greg, you've obviously made a good impression upon the neighbors as far as your willingness to do the development. Have you considered reducing the density a little bit so that you could be within the previous compliance, as Mr. Leslie pointed out?
Down to 47?
Whatever Mr. Leslie was saying that the previous, and Bruce, I think you had worked on it before. What was the previous density and traffic counts?
I think the previous BDP was limited to 47 units, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
That's not viable?
not viable.
Okay.
Would not be
Being a
viable.
transportation and a structural engineer, you have a high-speed off-ramp going into Pineda Causeway. The chances of getting DOT 5 to put a traffic light there is nil.
I know,
So,
I tried it.
The residents have valid concerns on the increased traffic, I think. Miss Shirley, thank you. You did a very good job on pointing out, the criterias that are there, and, your traffic study guys should also put in your service vehicles as well. So is there any consideration on going maybe maximum 2-story and reducing total number?
So I
Or
think,
what's your break point for profit? And
I think the problem, before I'll get to that,
Yeah.
the issue I think we've got is that the current zoning is INH, which requires us to have access off a major arterial, which is US 1, which, by the way, would be my first choice. No question about it. But because of the fact that they went and put in the interchange, we can't do that any longer.
Right.
So we actually have no choice but to be able to downzone to the INL to get access off that. Is that my preferred access? Of course not. I would certainly be wanting to be accessing off US 1. But we can't. I mean, that was taken away from us by the state. So we really don't have a choice under the circumstances. So that is the reason why we're and then there's been talk about can you possibly access off Otter Creek, and I would love to do that. But we've got, first of all, you've got residences in place, and businesses, and also you've got a big wetland that runs right through there. So all of this makes it extremely difficult to be able to work with the site. That's why we've proposed to sit down with all the powers that be, including FDOT, and we already had a conversation with them, to see what we can do to improve not only that intersection, but also Old Dixie Highway and Otter Creek. I can't, we just can't get into it right now because we're just not far enough down the line with them. But that is absolutely something that we want to do. And, I've had a very honest discussion with the neighbors. We would like to make sure that there are as little traffic congestion, selfishly, for our own residents. I mean, we're investing an enormous amount of money into this. It's critical that we get this right, and we intend to do that. So, that's why we really are almost in the same level playing field here. In terms of reducing the size of the building, 47 would not work for us.
Yeah.
No, that would be impossible. So then really the question would be what would work for us? It's not really a matter of 2 stories or 3 stories. That doesn't really make a difference. We are limited, extremely limited actually, by the wetlands around there, which is why we've gone 3 stories. But that doesn't really make that much of a difference. The issue is more about what we call the unit mix, which is we have what we call a continuum of care. So it's not just assisted living and memory care, it has an independent portion as well. And there's a reason for that. It's today, essentially what's happened is that, certainly, and the pandemic has accelerated this, is that people who used to come into independent living at the age of 78, now coming in at 82, 83 years old. And your assisted living is now at 85, 86 years old. So, and that used to be way lower. It used to be sort of around about 80, 82. Why I say that is that today, to make these successful, you really have to have all 3 elements: independent, assisted, memory care. And there's a formula to make it work. Could we make it slightly smaller? Yeah, we could. But I don't think that's going to make any difference here, one way or the other, to the traffic. It's just really not going to move the needle.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I would like to commend you too with your communication with the surrounding neighborhood.
Thank you.
That's good.
And we intend to continue that, by the way.
Well, I think you've jumped through hoops to get this coming to where it is today, especially where it's come from. Any other questions from the board to the applicant? Ms. Liz.
So you're going to look at widening the road from 20 feet to 24 feet? Is that what?
I think that's one of the concepts.
Will that include sidewalks? I don't know if there's sidewalks on there now.
There aren't sidewalks, no.
No sidewalks?
No. We need to look, it's tight. It's very tight around there. So and it's got a culvert that runs on the one side. So we've just got to be able to sit down and really work it out and see how, and then somebody's got his post box there. So, and there's fire hydrants and things. So we've got to be able to work through all of that to be able to see what we can do.
And then in your experience running these types of facilities, independent, assisted, memory care, not all these residents are going to have vehicles.
Right.
And so I think the most vehicles for me that the residents are going to see are the employees, and then of course service trucks, and then visitors. So
that is correct.
I don't picture 178 vehicles.
And not even close.
Yeah.
In terms of the residents, I mean, honestly, not even close. I was actually telling Mr. Leslie, we were just discussing this beforehand, but assisted living and obviously memory care residents don't drive. But assisted living, the national standard is 4% of them drive. In our facilities, not one. Not a single assisted living resident drives because of the age that's just gone
Well,
crazy.
because you're a community for seniors, so they don't have to leave the facility. You have the exercise, you have
Right. Yeah.
So the one speaker, I think it was Shirley, talking about the amenities as far as the pickleball and those types of things. I know that will come up in site plan as far as the lights, that they can't shine,
Yes.
things in that
Yes.
nature. So I'm not worried that that's going to be an impact to the neighborhood too much. And I'll just share with you, Courtney Springs is it's an independent assisted, and then they have the nursing home on Merritt Island, all in one location. And it borders a community, it borders an elementary school, it borders an airport, and it all piles onto South Tropical Trail. And I drove that trail every day for 12 years. And at peak times, you know, you have the garbage trucks, you have the school buses, you know, but I never saw it as being a dangerous situation because, so they were good neighbors with the surrounding community, and I see this as not being bad neighbors. I see this as being, you know, compatible, at least with what the existing, before what this was going to be. So anyways, that's all I have.
Let me,
Yes, sir. Mr. Henry.
when you did the analysis, that was, the traffic engineer took into account the, under the, utilizing the trip generation manual?
Yes.
Specifically for this kind of requirement here?
Yes, yes.
And did they take into account that maybe southern versus northern or anything like that? Meaning, sometimes those analyses are done that applies to north of the Mason-Dixon and some are.
No, they're based out of Melbourne.
Okay.
Okay. I think LTG out of Melbourne? Yeah, Melbourne.
Okay, so.
Familiar with that, yeah. And they take into account all of those, everything that was brought up. It's not just the residents, because as I said, you know, the residents really don't drive. It is staff, it is, and it is visitors. That's the bulk of where your traffic is going to come from. Service trucks are relatively limited.
Right.
But, yeah, staff and visitors, that's by far where it's going to come from.
When you use the number, I think it was 78 or something during peak.
I believe that's right, yeah.
Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering where you found the 78. Because it isn't like everybody's just going to charge, if you're over 75 or 80.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to charge over there to grills real quick.
Right.
That's just my own opinion. You know. That's where I wasn't sure of the number.
I wish that was 75.
Oh, I understand.
It's like 85. Yeah, so you're quite right.
Yeah, okay. That was my own question. Thank you.
I just had a couple of comments if I could.
Mr. Bruce.
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I wanted to kind of repeat kind of what Henry was saying, and what you were saying is when they do a traffic study, it looks at every trip that goes to the site and leaves the site. It's not just the people that actually live there. It's all the service vehicles, it's everything, because they study similar uses all over the country, and they come up with these equations that show what the traffic is based on the size and the number of people that are occupying it. Being very familiar with the site plan process in Brevard County, anything that is substandard from your southmost driveway to US 1 will have to be brought up to current requirements. So if it is not the required 24 feet, they will make you bring it up to current standards of 24 feet. So that'll be handled at the site plan process. And I did notice that, you know, you are on a limited access to Pineda Causeway, so you will not get access to US 1 no matter what.
I know.
And there's not enough distance from that intersection to provide access anyway. I know there's other people that access this road right in this area. I mean, I can imagine what that park's like with those boats coming in and out of there on a busy weekend, but I can't imagine this is going to be anything like that. And I do understand that anytime you have a road coming on a major highway, getting in and out can be difficult, but I think this use is about as small of a generator that you're going to get, other than maybe a storage facility. Right. But so I don't really see a lot of the issues. I've been to the site. It doesn't look very pretty the way it sits. It would be nice to have a state-of-the-art facility on there. I think that would look really great at a major intersection like this. So I didn't have any concerns.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
For the applicant, I heard from one of the community members that you had presented an option earlier on with 2 entrances, and now you have 3. That southmost entrance is close to the cluster of the houses that make up that community. Is there not an option to route that road around the backside of the property and close off that entrance?
Yes, I think there is a way. So if I'm not mistaken, and I don't have my architect here right now, but I think one of the reasons we did that was to create additional parking as you enter through there. So we're required to have the 2 entrances for sure. And the third one was to be able to allow parking on the southernmost entrance, and then you could have the trucks exiting, and not only trucks, but fire trucks and whoever else needs to exit, the northernmost exit. It is actually something that we did discuss, and one of the things we are providing is underground parking. Well, not underground, but it's covered parking, which is we thought was a benefit as well, not only to the residents, but also to the neighbors, because they don't have to sit there looking at cars all the time. But we've got limited parking, and that's one of the reasons that we had that. I do believe that can be changed. I don't want to commit to that just yet, but it is something I will look into.
And then another question, if that were to be closed and you needed 3 entrances to make things work.
Right.
You'd mentioned about the wetlands on Otter Creek. Is there not an option to take another entrance out there, but build some sort of a bridge over it to where you're not disrupting the wetlands?
Very difficult, very expensive, and we'd have to go through the Humane Society to do that. It's not, there's existing property over there, so we'd have to.
They don't have any frontage on Otter Creek.
Yeah, we don't have any frontage on Otter Creek.
Yeah, but on the west side, it gets pretty slim, so it may be feasible further up on Otter Creek, not closer to US 1, but further up towards, because it angles, is what my point is, and so you'd be going across a much smaller portion of wetland to being able to build a bridge there.
But I think that's all Humane Society property, all the way up Otter Creek.
Somebody else's property.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Chair, can I interject for a second?
Yes, sir.
So this property does not have access to Otter Creek Lane. There is another property that has access to that. I want to point out to you guys is that the concept plan is concept in nature and that it has not been reviewed for county staff as far as what's required per the county code. So they may be putting 3 access points on their plan, and that's what they like to have, but I don't know if they can have 3 accesses based on what the engineers are going to tell us what they can and cannot have. So I just wanted to throw that out to you. If you're concerned with access points and limiting to that, that might be a requirement that you do put in the BDP.
Any other questions, sir?
No, thank you.
Everyone shaking their head no, so we're good. Liz, anything else?
No, if no one else has any comments, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to approve the zoning change with eliminating the existing BDP and to approve a new BDP that includes the 15-foot buffer around the entire property, limit it to 28 units per acre, and limit the ingress and egress to Old Dixie Highway. Jeffrey, did I need to add anything to that?
That's what the applicant is proposing.
Okay.
On your microphone.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Liz, a second by John. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. And item H4, which is an LPA item.
Mr. Chair, before we read this into the record, these H4 and H5 are companion applications. We'll read both of them into the record. However, you will need to provide a separate motion for each of those 2.
Okay.
So this property is the north of property of the application that you just heard. So this does have frontage on Otter Creek Lane.
Good afternoon, Planning and Zoning Board. Item H4, Humane Society of South Brevard Incorporated requests a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment to change the future land use designation from NC and CC to all CC. The project number is 22SS00011 for tax account number 2606030 in District 4. And then item H5 is Humane Society of South Brevard Incorporated requests a change of zoning classification from GU and BU1 to all BU1. Project 22Z00048 for tax account number 2606030 in District 4. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Sir, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Mike Allen, excuse me, Allen Engineering, 106 Dixie Lane in Cocoa Beach. I'm here representing the Humane Society. We are asking for a land use change and a zoning change on that western tip of the Humane Society. It's strictly to get it into conformance with, you know, the balance of the Humane Society property as well as the project you just heard. I know there's some questions regarding traffic, but this rezoning could assist in, you know,
clearing that up.
Yep.
Is there anyone in the audience want to speak for or against this item? Sir, if you could step aside and if you could come up and again, sir, state your name and address for the record.
Mark Leslie, 2665 Hilltop Lane. More of a technical question. We're changing from neighborhood commercial to community commercial. In the previous rezoning, there are 3 neighborhood commercial parcels attached to the community commercial. That did not get changed. So we still have 3 neighborhood commercial parcels on the Protea proposed development site. So in terms of uniformity, you know, if you're looking at that entire area, one of the questions I would have is if this is still neighborhood commercial on the northern end of that other parcel, does that mean that it is in such limited scope as is defined in code compared to community commercial?
Hello, staff.
So what I would tell you is that the ALF is a different use that's kind of in between the commercial and residential use. So our code allows for an ALF, ILF to be situated in a neighborhood commercial land use designation. However, for the Humane Society of Brevard County, BU1 zoning is not allowed in NC zoning. So that's the reason why the applicant is asking for the CC land use, because without it, BU1 would not be consistent or compatible zoning district for that property because of the commercial uses.
So does that mean the Protea property is going to be combined neighborhood commercial and community commercial? Because that's what the request
That is correct. There was no request to change the land use for that property because regardless of the land use, INL is an allowable use in both the NC and CC land use categories.
Okay. What is the intensity designator between INL and INH? How does one know that you've gone over? Is it the acreage?
No, it's so INL is low, it's low intensity, H is for the high intensity.
Correct.
In the staff comments. Mr. Leslie, do you have a copy of the staff comments?
I do. My bigger question is, what is the criteria? I mean, you can say it's low intensity, you can say it's high intensity, but what, other than maybe traffic generation?
There's allowable uses that are allowed only in INL versus they need in having INLH, such as a private school. A private school is not allowed in INL.
Okay, so if both are permitted with conditions, then it doesn't matter whether it's neighborhood commercial or community commercial?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Allen, can you come back up?
Yeah, the request is to rezone to a BU1. We can't rezone to BU1 without changing the land use. So that's why we're requesting a land use change first and then followed by the rezoning to BU1.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. Mr. Ron.
Question. Why are you up here? I understand, but it seems to me that unless you're making a change, you don't need to be here. Are you changing?
We are not currently making a change, and we do not propose to make a change at this point, but.
I was wondering if you're going to be expanding your facility to accommodate more animals, because there is a need
They
for
are willing
that.
to work with Protea, as a good neighbor. If we need to make a connection to Otter Creek, then it saves us a step of coming back at that point.
Okay.
So we're just trying to obtain flexibility. Humane Society is not going away, but we're just trying to have flexibility in what we can do with.
Have you had conversations with the previous applicant?
No.
Would you like to?
The previous.
I mean, it would seem.
Oh, you're talking about with Protea or the?
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yes, we have had.
Okay. I mean, it would seem one of the things that has come up is the access.
And that's exactly what we're trying to work through at this point.
And if you two could work together, that could help with the access.
We are trying.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant?
No, it's not a comment. I mean, it's incompatible zoning the way it sits now at GU, which is really just a holding pattern for what's going to happen. And if it's already BU1 and they own the property, it only makes sense to make it consistent. So,
Agree.
Whether they get an access through there or not, I don't think that's really that much concerning, since it's the intersection that's the issue more so than which road they connect to. But yeah,
Mr. Chair, over here. So if that's the case, the way that Protea was approved, there was a BDP condition. This is the limit of the access to Old Dixie. So that would preclude from them getting access to Otter Creek Lane.
That's correct. That's how it was approved.
Okay.
I don't know if one has to do with the other, but that's.
Yeah, because they can always come back and change,
Yeah,
modify the
that's right.
BDP
Absolutely.
if a compromise is made between the two properties.
Sure. I can't imagine there'd be any pushback on that.
No, and honestly, this is basically right-sizing the zoning to the comprehensive plan, which right now they're in a non-conforming state. So
Right.
if there's no other questions, I'm going to make a motion to approve the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment.
I'll second that.
And that's item H4.
H5. Yeah, land use.
H4.
No,
Just four for right now. We got a motion by Liz, a second by Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item H4 passed unanimously. Now item H5.
Make a motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion by Liz, a second by Bruce. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passed unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, item H6, that's an LPA item.
Yes, item H6 is a comprehensive plan text amendment to adoption to add the coastal high hazard area map to the coastal management element and correct a Scrivener's error in the glossary. It will be heard at the board meeting December 2nd.
What is the significance of changing and to or?
It was
Bruce, that was, if you remember, that was a Scrivener's error at the last minute to try to circumvent some discussions that were happening. And so with that, it's just a cleanup to what's an and what's an or.
Okay. And doing this just allows you to adopt the latest maps that come out as they come out?
Yeah, that was one of the concerns that DEO had, is that they wanted us to include those maps.
Okay.
And so this is one of the things that we're doing.
Okay.
I've got a question, in line with this, what has occurred here just recently within the last week or two, will the coastal setback line be adjusted eventually?
Mr. Chair, I'm going to have Darcy come up and, from Natural Resources, explain how this all plays into each other.
Yeah, but you need one and the same?
No, high hazard line is different.
Let me just ask coastal. Did Darcy get,
Are you speaking of the county line or the state line?
well, the county?
That would be an interesting debate. Right now, we have a setback that's 25 feet landward of the state's coastal construction line, the old one from 1981. So we already have 25 extra feet. Obviously, in some areas that we've seen, it's, there's some challenges as we have these storms and the.
So in essence, we're not consistent with the city lines, say for instance, Satellite Beach is different than portions of the Brevard County?
Yes, and they actually had, COVID has messed with my timeline, but I think it was pre-COVID, they had tried to adopt our line.
Okay.
And they had some pushback, and they ended up with a compromise. I can't remember if it was 10 or 15 feet west of the line, but as you know, in Satellite Beach and in Brevard County, we have a lot of older structures that we are worried about. And right now, we're working with the residents and the businesses that were affected by the storm. We did have some undermining, so that was unfortunate.
This is maybe a little bit off, but if a structure today was totally failure, would they be permitted to rebuild?
We do have a section in our code that addresses nonconforming structures, and it talks about undermining and the requirement to move back. It doesn't mean you have to take the whole structure down,
Right.
but you would need to take off the part that's undermined, and then a minimum of 15 feet from the crest of dune, of course, depending on, we're going to have some more sand come out. Hopefully sooner rather than later. And then you have to do a vulnerability analysis to a 25-year storm to at least come back that far, but the other non-conforming part could stay there.
Those are mine. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I figured if she was here, I better ask her.
Mr. Robert? Yeah, I've got a question for staff. Why are you not using the flood insurance rate maps for your coastal hazard line?
Okay, so the coastal high hazard area is defined by state statute, which
Yep.
is the Category 1 storm surge, which is not the same as the FEMA special flood hazard area maps. They're two different things, so they look different.
Okay, that's 163-3178, Florida statute is the,
That sounds correct. I don't know all those numbers in there, but I'm going to trust you. That's the right one. Yes.
it's right here. So, we just had a storm,
Yes.
very fast-moving storm, 3 to 5 foot storm surge on top of a king tide, and it's undermining structures.
Mm-hmm.
Look, my first deployment was Hurricane Opal in 1995, 12-foot storm surge, Okaloosa Island. Did away with every first-story floor. They had a 98% evacuation rate. Only 2 people lost their lives. Outstanding. But we don't have a 98% evacuation rate here. So the densities that we're looking at as a building and zoning board is a matter of life and death. And I've fished people out of mangroves. It's not fun. Engineering is a lot easier than victim recovery. So I would urge, I gave everybody a nice little map of what FEMA wants. Just for your benefit, I was at Hurricane Florence in South Carolina, Hurricane Michael in Panama City, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Ike, Hurricane Harvey in Texas. And I did not go to Hurricane Ian, but my friends did, my other search and rescue people. And a lot of people are violating the coastal construction control line, and they're doing it for local reasons. So if you look at Walton County in Northwest Florida, they've adopted FEMA. I went to high school in Fort Walton Beach. I went through 9 hurricanes by the time I graduated from high school. So they understand what the coastal construction line can do. So I would just urge staff to look at the FEMA lines and start using them instead of Satellite Beach has one, South Melbourne has another, unincorporated Brevard has a third, Port Canaveral has a fourth, Cape Canaveral Space Force Base has a fifth, and they're all over the place. But the storm surge isn't going to care. And a 3 to 5 foot storm surge, go down to Oceana. That structure was built in 2018.
In the city of Satellite Beach.
Okay.
We do have our new 13 parallel flood policies that were just adopted, which you saw the amendment today to add the coastal high hazard area maps. And, we're going to be seeking direction from the board and from the public, something of that magnitude.
I can't read that map. I know I wear glasses and I'm an old man.
We
but
didn't want to put the map in there. They require the map, yeah.
This is not,
And it
I don't know
changes.
who does this benefit? I mean, you guys can do save a lot of money. You don't have to go through the, the board, Regional Planning Council board and do a study and a storm surge study. All you have to do is adapt FEMA. It's a lot cheaper.
Okay.
All right, that's my comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, Darcy, I don't know if this is the right time to talk about this, but if there is going to be a lot of discussion, I mean, at the county commission level and residents, at one time we talked about managed retreat, and I know that, there's a high cost to managed retreat, but there's also a high cost to sand renourishment. And I didn't know if, you can tie the two together when you're looking at funding sources, but as a way of keeping, not keeping, but it would be a program where it would be the owner of the properties, ability to sell that land to the county or the cities, and then it doesn't get developed, and then you start managing your shoreline. So anyways, I know we talked about it when Ernie was here years and years ago, but it didn't go very far. And so I didn't know if that's part of what you guys are going to be talking about. But anyways, I just threw it out there from
Thank you. And
years ago.
and for we have some repetitive loss properties that the county's acquired through grants for flooding. So I'm sure that's going to come up. Thank you, Liz.
Good. Well, after all that discussion, I'm going to make a motion to approve the item.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Bruce, a second by Liz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passed unanimously. Okay, meeting adjourned.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such